Hello. I wanted to talk about, essentially motivation, like, the the mentality that has, gotten me to a point where I am confident in what I make, I am excited by what I make, and I am excited to learn. And I wanted to talk about it just because, it's a big sort of character development thing for me over the past couple years, and I've just gotten a lot better with it. I used to have freaking mad imposter syndrome, and imposter syndrome freaking sucks. Why does it freaking suck? Because you're not doing anything. Imposter syndrome sucks because you're not freaking doing anything. And the reason, and the way to freaking get past it, really, quite frankly, honestly, is to just freaking do stuff. And I want to talk about that because essentially, the thing that has, gotten me the most, just improvement is to just, instead of spending so much time thinking about a thing and being like, oh goodness, I have no idea how I'm going to do it, oh dear, I don't even know where to begin, I don't know how it's going to turn out, instead of just worrying about all of this stuff, I just freaking start. I just start on it, even if I'm completely freaking clueless as to what I'm doing. And if I am too clueless to even begin, I just look out for things that will actually, be informational on how to do it. Things that will be informative. Because the most important freaking thing that you can have, by far, is knowledge. That is just the absolute key thing that you can gain through any, creative endeavor. The absolute key thing is knowledge. Knowledge is not even just really in creative endeavors, just in general. The thing that, sets... The thing that, sets you apart from everybody else is the things that you know and the things that they know. And a big, important thing is also just, in regards to learning from other people, is because they have knowledge that you might not have. That is completely possible, and you might have knowledge that they won't have. And through communication, suddenly, what do you know? You've both traded knowledge, and now you're both better. And that's just freaking awesome. That is, what to do. It's also important to not get too bogged down in the things that you make that you're, not happy with in some way. So the reason I have this pulled up is because this is a good example. The videos that I've done on the main channel are a perfect example. It's important to not get too bogged down in your own things that you feel are shortcomings. Instead of just, basically looking at it as, oh goodness, and now, oh goodness, it proves that I can't do it. That's sort of, the dramatic, easy way to look at it. And that is the key thing to not do. That's the key thing to avoid. I want to talk about, this is the first, proper video essay type video that I did. Technically, it was the Indie Games one, but this is the one that, feels like the first proper video essay to me. And I want to talk about it because I look back on this video and think it's kind of lame. I'm not, super happy about this video, now. But my favorite part of this video, by far, is easily this intro bit, this bit right here.
There are plenty of subversions to these standards as well. And today I'd like to talk about a few games that I quite like that subvert this exact thing.
I think that is freaking awesome. The rest of the video, I kind of don't care about. I think the pacing of it is very stop and go. I think it's, kind of too informational, just not enough, personality to it. And so then I was like, okay, well, instead of just freaking, feeling bad about myself and feeling like, oh goodness, this sucks, it was like, okay, well, no, let's freaking improve. I know what I liked about the video. I liked the intro bit. The intro bit was artsy and cool. That was neat. And then, the pacing is too stop and go. Okay, we need to improve the pacing. It feels like it didn't have enough personality. Okay, we need more personality. Okay, let's go. Next video. And so then, that is, instead of just looking at it as a failure, it is learning. It is all learning. It is always learning. Everything that you look at that somebody else made that you think is freaking better than what you made, it is not freaking better than what you made. It is an opportunity for you to learn how to get just that good. That is always what it is. And it's good to look at that way. It's good to look at that as your own project, with your own projects as well. That is, the key freaking thing to keeping yourself on a roll and not just getting bogged down in things comparing yourself to others, and even comparing your own stuff to your own expectations. Because then I did the Perfect Dark video, and this is probably the most professional video I've ever done. I'm really proud of this one. But it was too much. It was too much. Because this video took so long to make. This video took a month and a half. And it was 5 freaking pages of script. Like, it was so much. It was insane. There was like 3 or 5 pages of script. It was crazy. And it took way too long to make. It took way too much effort. I was kind of burnt out by the end. And I want to make video games. I don't just want to make videos. I want to make video games primarily. And so it was like, okay, well, this turned out cool. I'm happy with it. But, like, I can't keep doing this, right? So it's like, instead of just being like, oh, goodness, I just can't do videos. I just can't do them. There's just no way for me to do both. I have to focus on one or the other. It was like, okay, no. We can do this. We can do this. There's a way to freaking do this. And it's like, okay, well, then what about the formula do I like? Like, what about this works? What about the process of making a video do I enjoy? Like, let's just focus entirely on that so that the process of making a video stays, like, high energy. I'm not just, like, getting burnt out by the end of it. And so I realized it was like first off, the videos have to be shorter. It's like the key thing. The videos have to be shorter. They can't be as in-depth, but the personality stuff is my favorite stuff. So it's like, okay, let's keep the personality stuff. Let's, like, do something more loose, more, like, personality-driven. And that's where the Meat Fortress video came in. And this is my favorite video that I've made besides the short hike music video. That short hike music video is just straight up my best video, I think. But, like, in this, like, new format, I feel like I finally, like, found the format that actually works for, like, what I do and what I want to do with this video. And that learning process came from making a video that I look back on. Like, I cannot rewatch this. I find it so boring. That process came from making this and then making this, which I am still proud of, but, like, it just isn't me. Like, a part of this video really kind of felt like I was just doing the YouTuber thing, and that was part of, like, what I didn't like about it in the end. I'm still really proud of it, but it's just not me. And then this one is like, ooh, this was actually me. This feels like my sort of thing. And that came through, like, having shortcomings and learning from those shortcomings and focusing on the stuff that this works, and just doing that. Just doing the thing. Like, that is the key point that, like, I really want to, like, get at with this. Is, like, just doing the thing is how you accomplish stuff. It is the, like, because even if you feel like demotivated by any way, like, through any means or for any reason, if you just do even just a small thing, being able to finish that and look back on it and be like, wow, I accomplished this. Even if it's a small thing, just being able to know that you are capable of creating something is such a huge motivator going forward. Like, it is just such an important thing to always strive for. And so, yeah, I'm super happy with this video. I think it turned out great. It's still, it's not perfect. This bit with the scout is like a minute and a half. It's a little bit too long. Like, it kind of messes with the pacing of the video a little bit. But I still thought the bit was funny, so I wanted to keep it in full just because, yeah, I think it's funny. But yeah, so it's like, I mean, that's also part of it, right? It's like, you can't, like, striving for perfection is, like, also just, like, not a good thing. Like, of course, like, that's the easiest way ever to get stuck with imposter syndrome, is to be looking for perfection and to be trying for perfection. You're never going to hit perfection, but you can always be trying for it. It's just important to have the realistic expectation that you are not going to hit it, like, just no matter what, because that's just how life works. This is sort of the classic thing of, like, art is never finished. It's just sort of, like, done or whatever it is. It's like, art's never finished. It's just, like, let out into the world, something like that. But, like, that's just sort of it. Or it's never finished. It's abandoned. I don't really like the phrase abandoned, though, because it's like, you don't have to, like, abandoned sounds like too negative of a connotation to me. But yeah, it's like, it's still not perfect, but that's okay, because it's just like, you know, it's like the pacing of the video was sacrificed for a funny bit. And that's important. Is again, like, keeping in mind, like being willing to make those sacrifices in those cases is really important to being able to finish anything. Like, I'm not just saying, like, oh, you need to be able to sacrifice stuff to make something good. You have to be able to sacrifice stuff to be able to make something. Because if you don't, you're just never getting anything done, because every creative process is just sort of a sequence of sacrifices, really. Because otherwise, you're just never going to finish anything. And again, the most important thing is to finish stuff. Because, like, when you finish something, you always have something to look back on and be proud of. And, like, as a marker that, like, you can do it. And that is so important for motivation. Another thing as well, so this is the first game I made. Dimensional Wander. I look back on this really, really happily. I am really proud of this game. I still look back on parts of this and I'm like, I don't even know how I did that. Well, I didn't do this part. This was a friend of mine made this scene, actually. But like I still look back on parts of this game and I'm just like, I don't even know how I did that. I'm not even sure like how I managed to accomplish that. That's kind of crazy. Like, wow, look at that. That is so gorgeous. That is so cool. And like this bit as well is just like, it's freaking great. It looks awesome. This game is freaking cool. However, this game is not commercially viable at all. Like, this is absolutely not a commercially viable thing. And I want to be able to make commercially viable games. So I look back on this well, but again, it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, well, there are like large flaws, like large shortcomings here. But instead of just like being like, oh goodness, I just can't make commercially viable games because it was really freaking hard to make this game. It's just like, no, it's never going to happen. It's like, okay, well, now how do people make commercially viable games? What do they do? Well, let's go looking. And like you just go there's a lot of really good like subreddits for game development and stuff for like people showing off their projects and talking about them. You can also find if you're on Twitter. Personally, I don't use Twitter. I think it's a very bad platform. But if you use Twitter, there's tons of game dev resources on Twitter as well. Just people posting their stuff and talking about it because like people are proud of what they make, and you should be proud of what you make. It's so freaking important to be proud of what you make because you freaking made something, and that is so hard. It is so hard to freaking make anything. It is the most impressive thing ever that you can freaking make something, and you should always be proud of that. And like, man, I'm losing my train of thought just a little bit. Because it's like I kind of like dumped everything I had in mind out already, but I know there's still more I want to talk about. But like, that's the thing. It's just like it's again like every single time that you see something that's better than what you can do, or what you feel is better than what you can do, you should never ever ever see it as like a comparison. It is never a comparison. You never should have any reason whatsoever to compare yourself to other people. You should have no reason to ever compare yourself to people who are better than you or people who you see as worse than you. Never, because if you compare yourself to people who are worse than you, that's just an ego trip. You're a jerk. If you compare yourself to people who you feel are better than you, then you're opening yourself up to feeling like crap, and that is not good. Instead, seeing people who are better than you is an opportunity for learning. It is always an opportunity for learning. Because if you see something that somebody made, instead of looking at it as like, oh, they did this thing better than I did, it should always be, oh, they did this thing and that's cool. I want to do that. Right? Like it's not a comparison. It's an opportunity. That is like the key thing to keep in mind when looking at other people's works is to never ever 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 compare yourself. Because the thing is like they're not comparing themselves to you. Like it's a one-sided thing, and like you're just hurting yourself. Like they're not asking you to compare, you're just doing it and then feeling worse about yourself, and that's not productive. Like this is like in a medium about being productive, that is not productive. That just makes you feel worse about yourself. It's not good. It's not good. It is destructive. And so, where was I going with this? Well, yeah, okay, basically where I was going with this is like, let me change OBS here. Do. Okay, so here is what I'm working on right now. This is a nearly commercially viable game. It's not actually completely commercially viable yet because the music is not original, and also I think I'll have to draw over these character sprites because I'm pretty sure this is like a toy from Walmart, and I don't think I can have that in, so I'd have to like draw over it or something. But like, it is a mostly commercially viable game. However, you look at this, and then you look at this, it's not necessarily like as pretty. It is not as much variety to it. Like, sure. Like, this is one of the this is one of my favorite shots in anything ever. I am so happy with this. I think it's awesome. I think that is so freaking cool. But like, my point is that like what I'm making here isn't necessarily like as flashy and as pretty as that, but like that's completely fine because like I think this still looks freaking great. I think this still looks super freaking cool. This is a 3D platformer, by the way. I have a release date set, but I don't really want to talk about it too much yet. We'll get to that. There will be some sort of teaser trailer on the main channel at some point. The point is that like instead of just like oops, went below the level for a second. Instead of just like just panicking of like, oh goodness, I'm never gonna be able to do commercially viable games because doing that non-commercially viable one was so freaking hard and it took forever. Instead of just like worrying about that a whole bunch, oops, there we go. Instead, it was just like, okay, well, how can I do commercially viable games? How do other people do commercially viable games? And so I just started looking into it. I started researching. I started learning. And like, it's like I found the Trenchbroom. Trenchbroom's the editor that I used for this, and I like read through the documentation, learned from There's like a Quake mapper guy who does amazing videos on Trenchbroom. I can't remember his name right now, actually, but yeah, he's a fantastic freaking dude. Makes great tutorials. I just started learning, and then like I just started building stuff. Like one of the most important things with this level is like the visuals. The visuals were like I built the entire freaking gray box of this level before doing any textures at all, and that is not a good workflow. Like that's definitely not a good workflow. But I was just testing it out. Oops, I didn't bump the microphone. I was just testing it out because I've never done this before, in this sort of way. I've never built a game like this before. The way I built Dimensional Wanderer was completely different to this. It was a completely different workflow. And so I was just testing it out. Like, what if I built, like, basically, it's called, like, building horizontally, where you build, like, all the sort of back end, or, like, the most essential stuff, and then do everything on top of that, instead of kind of building more vertically, where you kind of do everything in a little bit more evenly over the course of development. But anyway, I was trying out a horizontal development style because I just wanted to try it, see if it works for me. It doesn't. But it does work enough to the point where I was able to finish this. Or nearly finish it. This game is almost done. Should be out next month. But essentially, like, the point there, again, is it's just like, I had no idea where I was starting. I had no idea where I was beginning with this. But instead of just sitting and just being like, oh goodness, I don't know where I'm starting, I don't know where to start, I'm just so overwhelmed, it's just like, okay, well, what do I need for this? Well, I need, as a platformer, so I need a player that you control. Okay, let's start with, like, just that. Like, the entire game that's text for the private testing private testing demo, because I was doing playtesting and stuff. It was just like, okay, let's just build like a really, really basic scene and then just like try programming a moveset. And then like that's just where it started. And then from there it went like, okay, let's try building like a tutorial that like teaches the moveset. Okay, built a tutorial. And then, okay, we need like an actual level that you play through. Okay, and this was like the biggest roadblock of this project. But the key thing was to just never stop, like was just to never drop it because I didn't know what I was doing. Instead, it was to just keep freaking pushing, and eventually you're going to find something that works. Or you're going to, find something that somebody else has advice on, or it's a workflow that somebody else has, and that's going to work for you. And you just have to always be looking for stuff. You have to always be looking for ways to improve. That is the most important thing. It is not a matter of like, oh goodness, I can't do this. It's a matter of, I can do better. That is like the most important thing. That's like the mindset that I think is important. This is such a rambly video, I know, I'm sorry. This is why it's on the second channel. That's what the second channel's for. Is for rambly stuff. But like, man, I had like one more really good point I was gonna make. I don't remember what it was anymore. I completely forgot. But like, oh, yes, I remember. So, like, my workflow still is not optimal. Like, and, like, again, like, in all the stuff about, like, comparison and stuff, is like, do not look at this and think, like, oh, he's got it all figured out now. No, I freaking don't. Look at Trenchbroom. Look at this. Look at this mess. It's because I'm using high-resolution textures in an editor that isn't really made for them. So, like, here is the pixel view, right? So every unit in Trenchbroom, if I grab this, every unit in Trenchbroom is a pixel. And so using super high-resolution textures, it doesn't play well with them. I'm sure there's probably a way to make this work better, but I don't know how to do it. So instead, in Godot here, I have to freaking, like, manually... I have to manually, like, massively scale the UVs for this to fit. Like, here's, like, UV scale 1. It's actually at 30, so that it doesn't look terrible. Also, I know that this texture isn't good. That's a placeholder. But, like... like, that's just... It's like, I don't have it figured out, but I'm just trying stuff. I'm just doing it. Because, like, that is just the thing. Like, if you were stuck at having trouble, like, just doing a project in any capacity, like, the real freaking advice is to just start whatever you feel is, like, the first thing, especially the part of it, whatever part of that project, whatever piece of it that you are the most confident in being able to do, that is where you start. And then that gets the ball rolling, and then suddenly you kind of like, once you get that done, it's like, okay, well, now I have this done, but there's other stuff that I got to do for this. Well, now I'm more motivated to do it because this first part's already done, and I want to see the rest of it through because this first part makes me excited for the rest of it. Like, it's another thing as well. Is just like there's such a common thing with motivation with like posts like asking about motivation in like game dev subreddits. Like there's pretty much always one of those posts about like once a month, maybe even more often than that. And like one of the key things is also just like not building a project that's too big. Because it's like if you have to be able to build something that you can stay excited about all the way through. And one of the most important things as well is like cuz like it's like this sort of thing is like a lot of people have trouble starting small because they want to build something big because they're excited about building a large game. But like the thing is you don't like the key to making big games is making small games. And that might sound counterintuitive at first, but like excuse me. My point is like for this project, for example, I have to do a main menu and an options menu and all that. And I've never done this before and I hate doing it. I really do not I do not enjoy doing menus. Especially an options menu for the first time ever. Like this is not fun. This is like assembly line work. Like it is just like it has to get done, I know, but I do not enjoy it. Except the thing is, after this game, I can just bring this options menu forward to any other game that I make. And so as a result, like the time and effort spent on this options menu in the next game can be spent on making something actually cool. And like that is how you make large games, is you make small games that then have these systems in them because you just have to make these systems. Or I mean, you don't have to have an options menu, but I want to. It's like just one of those things. Like I would like to have that in there, but it's just like you make these smaller games that have these systems in them that you can then bring to your future projects, and that steamrolls, and like suddenly before you know it, you're making like just like this big this big project with all these cool ideas and things, and it's just possible because you've done the smaller stuff already, but you haven't just done the smaller stuff in a vacuum. You did it for the purpose of a small project, so you still get that satisfaction of finishing something and putting it out there and all of that. It's just so good. It's like that is the freaking way to do it. That is the way to do it. It's just like I'm both very very glad that I have finally like like found this for myself, like just found a way to like do this stuff in a way that keeps me excited and keeps me motivated. Because like I struggled with it for ages. Literally, I had like no freaking confidence in myself until the past like year and a half. Like genuinely no freaking confidence. And like this is like again like my point is just like it's just like eventually like if you just do stuff, eventually there's just a switch that flips and suddenly it's like, oh my goodness. Suddenly it's just like, oh my goodness, I have like suddenly you like have this like freaking like brain blast moment of it's just like, ooh, I could do all of the freaking stuff that I want to do. It's just a matter of time. Like you eventually freaking get there and it's awesome. It is so freaking worth it. You just have to freaking do the stuff. You just have to do it. It takes time. Like another thing about like comparing to people who like seem better than you and stuff is like they've been doing it for ages. It's like nobody makes a success on their first game. That just doesn't happen. Nobody's big breakout success is their first game. Like everyone, like the main one that people talk about now is Lethal Company, because Lethal Company is like a lot of people were really stuck on the fact that it was made by someone who wasn't even 18, and that's in my opinion that's a stupid thing to focus on because that's entirely a point brought up by people who are older than 18, or I guess older than the guy that made Lethal Company, and they use that like that is just opening themselves to feeling worse about themselves, and that's bullcrap. Instead, like that was not his first game. Like that was a big breakout hit, but that was like his fifth game, maybe even seventh, maybe 10th. Like he had made a lot of games before that. He'd been making games on Roblox for years before that, and he he actually left Roblox to go make something that he could actually own the rights to and sell himself, which is extremely smart because Roblox is a freaking terrible platform. Goodness sake. I could do an entire video on just that, but I don't have to because People Make Games did 2 of them and they're fantastic. But like, man, oh man, oh man, it's just like, ugh, it just frustrates me. It frustrates me to see other people beat themselves up when they are like already good at stuff and capable of getting even better. Because like you do not regress. Like this is like one thing that is like. I don't know, like I don't know how to explain it. It's like this is just like a phrase that just like lives in my head. It's just like you do not regress skill. You never freaking regress skill, like because it's all just knowledge. And as long as you keep that knowledge, you just keep freaking going. Like one of the things is like it's like people see it as like, oh goodness, these people can like make games so much faster than I can, or like, you know, there's more efficient and all those things. The way that they got efficient wasn't because they're just better than you. It's because they have done this for long enough to learn how to avoid the pitfalls. Like getting efficient is not a matter of just like soaring over all the problems. It's a matter of knowing how to avoid the problems and like knowing how to carefully maneuver around them. It's not an effortless thing. There is no such thing as an effortless game. Like, it is so freaking hard to make stuff. Like, every game developer and every person who makes anything is just somebody trying to bring a vision in their head into some sort of like, you know, like real manifestation of that thing. And the fact that like anyone is capable of doing that to any capacity is super freaking cool. And like because of that, anytime that you are able to do that, you should absolutely feel proud of it because it is so freaking hard to do. I mean, like, freaking like most games take like teams of people. AAA games take thousands of people, and they still ship with bugs. like AAA games are thousands of people, and they still don't release perfectly. Like, that is just such an important thing to keep in mind. It's like the fact that you can finish anything is so important and so impressive because like freaking teams of over 1,000 people can do that, and there will still be like, you know, shortcomings. There will still be flaws because there just is no such thing as perfection. And so you should really cherish the personal victories that you get along the way in making the stuff that you want to make. I think that's everything. Then I think I'm pretty happy with that. I know this is pretty high energy. It's just that, like, okay, I was talking to one of my best friends tonight, and he was telling me how he like had imposter syndrome and was feeling really bad about himself and stuff. And as I mentioned earlier, like that just frustrates me. It just frustrates me because it's just like people are so freaking good at doing stuff, and when they don't see that in themselves, it just drives me nuts. Because it's just like, man, you are freaking cool. You should see that you are freaking cool. Like I'm not just saying that in reference to the friend of mine I was talking to, but it's just like in general, like you, the person watching, and anyone else that wants to make stuff. You are freaking cool, and you are so freaking capable of making stuff. Because everyone's freaking capable of making something. Because like art is like a personal expression. You always put a piece of yourself into everything you make, and so as a result, everyone is capable of making something. On the what I mentioned, like some of the game development subreddits earlier, there's this phrase in the sidebar of one of those subreddits that is every gamer has the potential to become a game developer, and I think that is so cool because it is so true. Like if you enjoy this stuff, then you already have an understanding of like why it's good, and having an understanding of why it's good is so important to making it better. Oh goodness, I did have another point I wanted to make, but I'm losing my voice. At another point, I'll just try to like kind of get through it quickly then. But it's essentially like another thing is like seeing the way that someone else does something isn't necessarily better than the way that you might do it, because like you could like quality does not like what's the way to put this? Game development is a lot more about the cleverness of the execution of something than it is the quality of the execution of something. Like, what's a good example here? I had a good example and I forgot what it was. Oh my goodness, I forgot what it was. I don't quite remember exactly what my example was, but like it was like shotguns in a first-person shooter, right? If you make a shotgun in a first-person shooter, let's say a multiplayer one specifically for this example, because I want to talk about balancing, that's the clever part. If you make a shotgun in a multiplayer shooter and that shotgun is done as realistically as possible, you're likely going to end up with lobbies of people just running around with the shotguns because shotguns are actually a lot more effective at a longer range, or they are effective at a much longer range in real life than they typically are in a video game. And like it's a freaking shotgun, like it's a pretty effective weapon. And so if that effective range is decently long, then yeah, most people are probably going to run around with shotguns in a shooter like that. However, that's kind of boring if everyone's just picking the same weapon, right? How about instead of that, a multiplayer shooter... I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice, and I'm sure you can probably hear it. But how about instead of that, a multiplayer shooter instead, where the shotgun is like this... It's got like this chunky, wide spread on it, and its most effective range is like really close as a result, right? but it does like a ton of damage, like an instant kill if you can get close enough to an enemy. And so like that not only is a playstyle choice, therefore you won't have as many people choosing shotguns, but also that shotgun is probably way more like exciting to use. Like it's probably way more satisfying because you have to get close to the enemy. It's kind of risky, but it's like because you have to like think so much more about like the way you maneuver and all these things. But when you get up to an enemy and you blast them and it just all works, it would feel amazing, right? Like that is the balance that would make that fun. And as a result, it's like if someone is making a game and they're just like, I'm making the most realistic shotgun. It's like that, and it's like you're also making a shooter with the shotgun in it. Like you shouldn't worry. Like you shouldn't, like everybody else that's making stuff, even if it's in the same genre as you, it's like if it's in the same genre as what you're making, they have different priorities. Like they're focusing on different things because like there really are no two games that are exactly alike. And as a result. And that kind of goes for any art form. There's no art form where there's two pieces of art that are exactly alike, honestly. I guess besides like replicas and paintings, but even then, they're technically different because there will be slight differences in just the way that it's painted and also the materials used, like the pigments as well, can really make a difference. So there really is just no two pieces of art that are ever alike. So it's another reason that like you just should not freaking compare yourself, because it's like not only should you only see it as an opportunity to learn, but you should also never compare yourself because they are almost certainly having different priorities than you. Like if someone else knows something about game development that you don't know that you want to learn, instead of like, oh goodness, they know this thing and I don't, I'm so behind. It's like, no, they probably just learned that. Like they probably have learned the same number of things as you. It's just that they prioritized that over something else that you know that they don't. Because that's just how we are. Like we make different things. And we have different priorities in the things that we're making. And I think that's everything. I think that's finally everything that I wanted to talk about. I think that's all it. My voice is kind of dead, but I was just feeling really freaking motivated to talk about this because again, I was talking to a friend tonight who was feeling down on themselves, and it really motivated me to want to talk not just to them, but also in general in a video like this. About motivation, about like, just ways to keep at least what works for me in keeping myself motivated and all of those things. It's like you can only win. You can only win here. Like if you're making stuff and then you see somebody who did a thing that you think is better than your thing, or again, you shouldn't see it that way, you shouldn't compare it. If you see somebody who did a thing that you think is cool and you want to do it, you can only gain. Right? Because you can talk to them and learn how they did it. And if they're not willing to, like, not really if they're not willing to talk. I mean, hopefully they are. But, like, if you're not able to get in contact with them for any reason, you can still, like, look into similar things to that and, like, ways to do that, right? Like, you can only gain here. You can just get better and better and better and better and better and just keep making cooler and cooler stuff. Because, like, video games are cool, and I like video games, and I like seeing cool video games, and I like seeing cooler ones made by cool people. Did that make sense? It's just like if everybody gets better, everybody benefits. That's basically what I mean. But yeah, so it's like there you go, big spiel. Yeah, I haven't done a video in a while because I've just been working really hard on this game. Because I have an internal release date I want to get it done by. But there should be a teaser trailer up soon. So anyway, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to me ramble about this. I hope it wasn't like annoying or anything, but I guess if it was annoying, you just wouldn't keep watching. So, thank you for not getting annoyed, I guess. But anyway, yeah. That's basically it. See ya.